Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, July 7th, 2020 Working Group Component Standard Meeting. Um, the only item on our agenda today is Christoph. So, Christoph, we can either wait until maybe a few more people join, or you can just launch into it and people can catch up on the recording.
I'll give it just maybe like a minute or two.
Sure.
Just getting set up. Okay, I'll get started. So I mostly wanted to show up and introduce myself for those that may not know me or are viewing this recording. My name is Christoph Blecker. I am a member of the Kubernetes Steering Committee. And so the Kubernetes Steering Committee, there's going to be a KDev email going out today or tomorrow talking about this, but we're starting to do annual reports for all of our community groups, SIGs, working groups, and user groups. The idea of this is provide an opportunity for those community groups to both do kind of like their own self-health check and make sure that they are doing what they've said that they're going to do, document things that they might be doing that might not be written down places, and make sure that we have kind of a tighter communication loop between working groups, they're sponsoring SIGs, and that information kind of circles back around. The nature of the community, going back years, we've had like the main community call on Thursdays, but the nature of how fast the community's grown means that it isn't, we don't necessarily have everybody from the community joining up on one single call and listening to a report of what's going on in other parts of the community at the same time every week. So we're looking at some different ways to engage the various community groups so they can kind of like self-report, like, hey, things are going well, things are healthy, or, there are some problems that we don't necessarily know how to solve in our particular community group, and we need some help. And there can also be some connections there as far as knowledge sharing and making sure that just all the parts of our community are happy and healthy and working the way that they're supposed to. So I've linked in the chat and the agenda, and I'm going to quickly, would you mind allowing me to share my screen?
Sure. Let's see.
I think if you make me a co-host for the moment, it should allow me to press the button.
All right, you should have it.
There we go. Thank you. So basically this document, so in 2020, our first kind of initial goal is to go through all of our working groups, because that is kind of one of the areas of our community that's like, we have a number of working groups, We know they're very active, but we also know that there is, like we've heard feedback that there is gaps in communication. Like there's working groups where other folks in the community don't necessarily know what the working group is doing, if the working group is still active, how healthy it is, how often they're meeting, those kind of things. So we're starting with working groups, but we're eventually going to be wrapping in all of our different community groups, SIGs and working user groups and such. So we're kicking off this process now in July, and it's because it's the first iteration of it. We're going to be using this kind of as a collaborative process between steering and the various working groups. So I'm introducing myself because I am the newly assigned liaison for the component standard working group. So I'm the person that will kind of help coordinate with the organizers of the working group to kind of go through this process, answer any questions you might have. I don't like solely speak for steering. I can't make any decisions on behalf of steering, but I am there to kind of answer questions where, you know, or like route questions to the right other person who can get you the answer. So yeah, I'll be popping into some of your meetings. This is the only one where I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to put something in the schedule because I want to come and talk to you. But if there is something where the component standard working group has specific questions on like how to do something, how to do a process, I am definitely one person. There's many people that you could talk to, but I am one contact person who you can definitely reach out to, who can kind of redirect you to the right place to get the questions answered. The types of questions that will be kind of like answered in this report, like there'll be, again, it'll be like more templates and more stuff that'll come by email. But the kind of the questions that we're going through are everything from things like are your owners' files up to date? Are you meeting regularly? Are your recordings going into YouTube? Those kind of like core governance things to make sure that we're being transparent and we're doing the same things that every community group is doing. We'll also be looking into things like specifically for working groups, like, you know, where is your roadmap until the completion of the working group? Because working groups are typically time bound or goal bound to get certain things done. And if those, you know, that initial kind of goal set has changed over time, how can we get our governance documents up to date so we know, okay, this is the new goal of that working group and it's rechartered under this specific new thing. So that's basically the overview of what I want to talk about as far as what we're trying to do here.
Cool.
As far as timelines and that kind of stuff, we don't have necessarily like a locked in timeline because we know everybody's busy. This is a new process. But I'm going to kind of work with you to hopefully get this done maybe in the next couple months would be like my kind of ideal timeline, but it also depends on you know, availability and vacation and that kind of stuff, because this is like a new thing. We don't want to just dump something on the working group's plate and say, okay, you have a new responsibility that you didn't have before.
For sure.
Without any kind of like coordination and help.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's basically it. I don't know if there's any like top of mind questions that anyone has. I'm happy to answer those. And then, as I said, I'll be kind of like following up by email with some more specifics and that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, this looks really great. I'm happy about it. This working group specifically is, you know, kind of fluctuated in capacity over time. So it sort of depends on, you know, people when they have volunteer time show up and, you know, work on stuff for a few months and then, you know, kind of run out of time and we find other people to hand things off to. So currently it's a pretty thin capacity. So you might notice a lot of our meetings get canceled because people don't have agenda items, but there are still folks who are working on things asynchronously. So it might be worth like us just syncing up at some point to kind of talk about, oh yeah, I know this person's working on that. I've been helping them or whatever, just to get the status of everything.
Yep, that sounds great to me.
Cool. Yeah, I don't have any other questions off the top of my head. I have to read through this doc, but this looks really great. I'm pretty happy with having this process. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a new thing that we're trialing, and we're also swapping out like governance. Previously had that, you know, there would be more things that you'd have to do as far as like preparing a bunch of slides and coming to the community meeting, and this kind of like substitutes one of those requirements a year, so that you know, you're not doing the same thing twice. As far as like updating the community on our health, this format is a little bit more, it's a little bit more directed. It's not just asking me what are you working on, but it's what are you working on and how does it align to your goals? And it's asking that question like, is your group healthy right now? And if it's not, for one reason or another, like, you know, hey, we've got a bunch of work, but nobody's prioritized on it and nobody can put in time and hours, like that, those kind of things, you know, we can figure out, is there things that we can do to kind of encourage that participation? Is there things that we can do to prioritize those things if they're, you know, important and time sensitive to the project as a whole? Because we want to make sure that all of these groups, you know, if folks are working on things, we want it to be things that are valuable and going to be providing back into the community. We don't want anyone kind of like spinning their wheels and putting in a bunch of time, but I know, oh, there aren't reviewers, or there isn't like priorities in another part of the project to actually get something done. So yeah, new process, but hopefully we can engage together and partner together to work through the questions, figure out how this works, and, you know, if there is feedback as far as the process is concerned, improve it for the next go around. Because we, you know, as I said, we're focusing on working groups first, but our goal is to roll this out to all, you know, 50 or so community groups that we have, as far as like SIGs and user groups and all that kind of stuff as well.
Right on. All right. Look forward to it. Let's set up some time maybe this week or next week to kind of just talk through all this.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Christoph.
That's it for me.
Anyone have anything else for the meeting? Okay. Enjoy 15 minutes back. Thanks, everyone. Take care.